Welcome to the Blue Dragon Guild, a channel all about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Baron, and joining us today is Andrew Cawood from Cawood Publishing. Andrew, how you doing today?
Good, good. Out here on the West Coast.
So Andrew is here today to tell us all about the newest Kickstarter from Cawood Publishing. Andrew, what you got going on?
Well, we made the monster books. You've got, if you include all the monsters in our books, it's over 700. And we made the World of Mir, which should be coming out for Kickstarter backers very shortly. And then the new Kickstarter, which just launched on Tuesday, is our first big adventure book, Rise of the Mushroom King. So our plan is to write a bunch of adventures and the big thing about these is that they're going to be open to lots of tabletop role-playing systems, and you've got low, mid, and high-level options as well.
That sounds really great because as you and a lot of other people know, when most adventures come out, they're kind of shoot in at levels 1 to 5, 5 to 10, so on and so forth. So I really like having that option for beginner, mid, and late game. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think I feel the same way, and I some of the challenges with this book or that I thought I'd tackle, most of them actually I found that they actually can be win-win situations. There's a lot of sort of preconceptions about, oh, you can't do that or it doesn't work, but actually I'm not finding that. Like, I think it's going to be quite easy to have multi-level options. Like, there's a number of encounters that you don't need to change. It depends what setting is, but this starts out in a city, and a number of city encounters at the beginning of the adventure, especially, you don't really need to change for mid and high because if you run into the blacksmith, he's probably just going to be a blacksmith. He's probably not going to be a 10th level fighter. If you run into the merchant, they're probably going to be a merchant, and maybe they're a commoner, but they're probably not going to be like a 12th level wizard, right? So,
Maybe.
I mean, it is possible, and we have put some options in there to spice things up for some sort of more ordinary citizens. But overall, you want to change most of the medium and hard encounters. So those ones, we just give you more options. And if you play the basic adventure, you don't need any of our monster books. You just use core monsters and the new monsters we're going to have in the book. And then if you want to try the mid and high level options, then some of those are creatures from our book. So it was really about like how can we provide lots of options for DMs? Like how can we make this open to more systems? And as a DM and someone who's read modules like since the 70s, there's lots of things that I wanted to try out or change. And yeah, I think we've got something pretty unique.
I I'm very much looking forward to it. I know I as soon as I got that email notification, I was on there. I was ready to go. um,
Good to hear.
so, as you previously stated, you guys have mostly done monster books. What was the transition like for you going from monster creation into more story mode and adventure creation?
Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. I mean, in many ways, writing each monster, you're writing a little story about each one, or sometimes more than one story. And the world book, obviously, there's many stories, but this is really, I mean, I love storytelling. That's the main reason I like the game and the main way that I worked when I was a teacher. And if you know my friends, that's what I'm doing all the time is telling stories. So I think it's a total blast. Like I could just do it all day long. I actually have already sketched out about a dozen adventures. Some of them are from my groups I've had, my D&D groups, and then a few like this one are totally new ideas. Some of the genesis of this story is actually from our Underworld book, our Monsters of the Underworld, and a lot of people like this idea of these spores being spread around the Underdark and creating mutants and really giving you like all these different new creatures with new abilities. And we've taken that story and now expanded on it.
That's great. The Monsters of the Underworld. That's one of my favorite books you guys have done. Um, my all-time favorite is Monsters of Feyland. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
I
Yeah, I was just going to say the other thing we did is we actually polled our Kickstarter backers and asked them, what are your favorite monsters and what are your favorite settings? The number one type of creature, I was actually surprised. It was the Fae. The top two settings by far were dungeon and city. We've listened to that and that's what we've done. There's a Fae big bad evil guy, and we have an adventure with some city, some dungeon, and then an underworld section. And yeah, and then the next adventure we're going to do is going to be one that ties into this story. You don't have to run both of them. You can run them separately. And you don't need our world of Mir either. For this first one, for the Mushroom King, as long as you have any kind of settlement, you can start with a marketplace. You can start this adventure. It works a little bit better in a town or a city because there's a guild involved as well, but potentially it could even be a smaller setting.
That sounds great. I'm very much looking forward to getting my hands on it, and also the World of Mir book, which you mentioned earlier. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that in a way it's like you're kind of able to revisit the city book, the underworld book, and just kind of just like you said, just expand upon that, and that's great.
yeah, exactly. So now we have an opportunity to tie things into the underworld book, the city book. A number of creatures from the city book are in here in new ways, and the underworld book, and then we can also link it to the world of Mir. So when I talked to the artist about the idea for the adventure, right away I realized where the perfect place it would be in our world, and it actually is in the oldest city in the world, the oldest human city, and so it gives you a chance, especially with the world book about to come out, it gives you a chance to see what the place where humans began, what it's like now. It's the biggest city in the whole world, the biggest city on that continent. One of the stretch goals we'll have is actually to get a map made for the whole city, and that would be really cool.
That would be really cool. I am a sucker for some maps.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite parts about adventures. So we got a new person. We've had a cartographer who's done the world maps, and then I've been a big fan of this group called the Voyagers Workshop. They're actually in Canada as well, and they make these very classic kind of maps. And so they're doing all the maps for this adventure, and there's a good chance they'll stay with us for the series.
Awesome. So, for you, what has been the most challenging part of this process?
For writing adventures, probably just trying to come up with a good way to represent the low, mid, and high levels in the book, and also there's treasure options for low, mid, and high. To put that in the book, and then to make sure that it's open for other RPGs. If you play 5e, it's smooth, and all the monsters have 5e stat blocks.
All right. So, which part of this adventure are you most proud of? At least that you can share.
Sure. Well, yeah, actually, I should say right away that one of my favorite parts is there's an optional ending. So you can wrap up the adventure and have it just stand alone, right? Or you can have this optional ending, which will link to the next story, the next book. And I love the optional ending. It's just this huge twist. Some people might not like kind of how it goes, but I think it's a great twist on things and a great way to continue this. Like you could really even build a campaign around it. So I really like that part. And I like how it draws you in. I like stories that kind of take time to like do the slow burn, like the beginning is very traditional. You're arriving at this city or town, and the party could be resupplying. It could be a first level party who are just buying their supplies. You could drop it at a tavern, or maybe you're planning on staying there overnight. And then things start to happen in this marketplace. As a DM, I will always want my players to choose whatever they want to do. Like the only rule I have for my games is that we don't have evil characters, and everything else is on the table. So if the parties are, if they want to say, we ride our horses like 3 days to the east, or we find a secret tunnel in the town and we just start following that passage, wherever they want to go, I want that to happen. Like I want that, spontaneity, and I want kind of everything on the table. So in these adventures, I want to give DMs options of, what if the characters do this? What if so all the buildings, when you first get to that marketplace, you can go into all the buildings and you know what's there. When the dungeon level is opened up, there's not just one way to go. So I really like that there's really, a lot of, it's not so much of a railroad story. Players can really explore. And if you want to do the role play, there's going to be many options for that. If you want to go old school and just fight for hours and hours, that'll work too.
That sounds amazing. I really like having those options of like, well, what if we go here? What if we go there? Because most books, they kind of give you almost a linear path.
Yeah.
So I like that you have that option, especially for brand new dungeon masters who aren't really sure what to do with that. It gives them a guide of where to go.
Yeah, and I think too, some adventures there's too much at the beginning in terms of text, and people kind of go on and on about certain things, and that's not my style. If you know the monster books, especially if you like Feyland, I like to leave a lot open to the imagination. So we have some hints there for DMs, and some notes where we'll say, here's an option you could use, but a lot of it is really to give an open, place to play. So from that market, for example, there's about 5 different ways to get to the dungeons, which is the next place that they could go to. The first thing in the dungeons, basically, there's 2 main directions to go. There's some side options, but the 2 main directions, if they choose one, it's going to totally change the adventure, because they might be able to add some new people to their party who might help out, or they might hinder the party. Right? Even small details, like there's a cat in the bookstore, and at the beginning I just wrote, there's a cat. And then I thought, no, I'm going to give him a personality so that he's going to have some impact on the story. As many opportunities as I can find to add something, I'm going to do that. I actually have finished basically the manuscript. I'm just adding now if we do get the stretch goals, there's going to be an extra section of monsters. The monsters will double from 10 to 20. Yeah, and there will be an extra part of the adventure in the underworld. So right now I'm doing that. Yeah, I think an adventure, if you're getting 10 or 20 new monsters, I think that's a huge bonus.
Agreed. Well, Andrew, is there anything else you would like to tell us about this Kickstarter?
Just that it's short. It's only 16 more days, so just over 2 weeks. We try not to do really long Kickstarters anymore. So it's ending on June 21st, and that will be at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, we're, as of right now, it's just over a day, and we've just passed, I think, the 40% mark. So
Awesome.
Pretty good start.
Awesome. That's great to hear. For anybody interested in this Kickstarter, you can find a link for that down below, as well as links to everywhere you can find Andrew and Cawood Publishing. So go and back this Kickstarter and get some really awesome stuff. Andrew, thank you for joining me today and talking about your Kickstarter. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Baron. Thanks for having me on.
So everybody, again, links to the Kickstarter are down below. And until next time, keep the dice rolling.